Good morning. I just wanted to take an opportunity to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and just to share a little bit about the reality of what God is doing in this hour, or at least what God has been doing in my life for more than an hour for the last 20 to 25 years. In the last video, we talked about the reality that Satan's desire is to compromise our understanding of God's love for us. And by compromising our understanding of God's love for us, he compromises our ability to love God with all our mind, body, and strength, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. Now, he does this by chipping away at all the promises that support the idea that God's love is perfect and complete, and he calls us to a perfect relationship out of that perfect love. And so he has chipped away in my life over many years the things that support that idea that God's love is perfect. Now, if you'd ask me, do I believe God's love is perfect? I'd say certainly, but then often I would find myself saying, but that doesn't mean this or that, and start denying the reality of the promises that support that idea, which leads to the inability to experience it and to live into it. And out of that came a series of books that God has given me to write to speak about the reality of the process that he has brought me through all these years. The first thing he had to do was to look at those things and explain those things that Satan had chipped away at, that had denied the reality that his love was perfect. And so the first thing he did was explain to me the reality of himself as truth, that his physical presence gave rise and meaning to the word truth. And he began to explain the importance of that and the impact of that upon my life and what I had missed. Then he had to explain the reality that his nature gave rise and meaning to the word love, just as his physical presence gave rise and meaning to the word truth. And not just any kind of love, but selfless love. And out of selfless love comes sacrificial love. And so he had to explain to me that his love was perfect from beginning to end. It's never varied. It's always been there. He's always loved us perfectly, but we've simply allowed the deceiver to challenge us and in the process of saying, are these promises really real? And let's face it, the promises are so great that it's hard to imagine that they are real, but they are, every single one of them. And I find that I allowed myself to be convinced that the lower promises, those that supported the greater promise, were actually not true. And in doing so, that compromised my understanding of God's love for me and my ability to love him and to love others. And so out of that came a third book, Broken and Revived, Walking the Narrow Road, His Case While We Are Not Ready. Again, it's on Facebook. All these books are on Facebook. There is a fourth book that is not completely finished, but should be on Facebook in the next 2 weeks. Now, the fourth is different in a way. The Bible speaks about a cleansing at the very end, and God is trying to bring that cleansing. He's trying to explain the things that not only potentially can separate us, but are separating us. So when our love for God is compromised, what would that look like? And the fourth book speaks about that, but it also speaks about a deeper reality, that if we refuse to acknowledge that it's happened, if it's happened, and I can't say it's happened for everyone, but if it's happened in a life and we refuse to acknowledge it, we refuse to imagine the possibility and pray over it, and that's what God's calling us to do, is pray over it and ask, Lord, have I allowed my understanding of your love for me to be compromised? He's just asking us to pray. Now, out of that, certain things are going to happen. A process is going to take place. He's going to start revealing the things that are hindering us from realizing he loves us. And he's doing this because he's a loving father who sees someone trying to harm his children, and he's trying to bring correction to the harm that has been done or he is trying to do to us. And he's doing it because he loves us, not out of anger or anything of that nature, simply because he sees us in the condition we are in, and he's trying to protect us. We would do the same for our own children, our own family members. If we saw someone lying and trying to tell them that we really don't love them, we would fight for them. And that's what God is doing. He's fighting for us. And so the last one is, and he'll say to many, the title is, and he'll say to many, I never knew you. Now, that's a little frightening, but it's not really meant to, certainly that is Scripture, and it is important, and we need to understand that Scripture. as God tries to bring correction. There are some legitimate reasons he understands that we will fear that correction. He can deal with those. But there's a couple that are completely self-absorbed, you might say, that he's not going to be able to work with. I don't want to deal with this because I might have to change my life, and I don't want to change my life. I want to continue if it's just the way I am. And if recognizing my love for God has been compromised, yes, it will change your life. But if I come to that knowledge and it's brought to me and I refuse to accept it for the reason I just don't want to acknowledge it because it's going to have to bring change in my life, it will bring change in my life. What change will it bring? It'll bring us an understanding of God's complete love. And if we refuse that for the reasons of this whole world, then yes, we're putting ourselves in a position where we may not hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Now, I'm not trying to scare folks, but we have to be honest that this is about a relationship. And so the last one, it looks at the reality of when our love for God has been compromised. This is what we should expect to see. God knows our fears. He wants to help us overcome the legitimate fears. And I say legitimate, fear and doubt have creeped in when we begin to question God's love. Fear and doubt creep into our mind. And if we have fear and doubt, then we have a compromised understanding of God's love. He can deal with that. But if we just don't want to deal with it because, not out of fear, not out of doubt, because we just don't want to change, we don't want to experience His love in a perfect way that changes our life because we want to continue to live in our life, then we're risking hearing, "I never knew you." All these books are on Facebook. No one has to purchase anything. I can't put a price on understanding this process. And so the first book is called Written on Stone, Our Struggle, Story of Prevenient Grace, looking at God as truth, all the things I didn't understand, that I allowed Satan to chip away, and I didn't fully understand. The second one is Mosaic, a picture of His perfect love. Did not fully understand His love. I questioned His love without understanding I was questioning His love. The third one is Mosaic, or is Broken and Revived, Walking the Narrow Way, God's case as to why we're not ready. The fourth one is, And He will say to many, "I never knew you." But the subtitle is because He tried to explain to us how our understanding of His love for us had been compromised, and we refused to do so because we didn't want the change that would come with that. We knew, we understood, but we just didn't want the change. Now, that's different than struggling to understand. Those who are simply struggling, but they're struggling forward, you're in good shape. Most of us are. But if we are brought to understand and it's not a struggle, it's just a calculated decision, that's a different story. So these books are on Facebook under their title. Explaining this process is not something I can put a price on. But if you are one of those rare individuals that likes books, you can find all these books on Facebook, or not Facebook, through Barnes & Noble. You don't have to go there. You don't have to purchase them. But if you are one of those rare individuals that want to actually hold a book, they're there at Barnes & Noble under their titles. Again, my name is Denver Pigman, and I'm not trying to put fear in folks. God is not trying to put fear in us. He's simply saying the time has come for me to cleanse. Well, what is He trying to cleanse? The misguided idea. He's trying to cleanse our compromised understanding of His love for us. That's what He's trying to cleanse us. He's trying to cleanse all the misguided ideas that have led us to a compromised understanding of His love. And so, again, go and look at the books on Facebook. Don't have to buy anything, but if you're one of those rare individuals, you'll find them at Barnes & Noble under their titles. I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.